It was a chilly morning in New York City when the first whispers started in Central Park. Joggers slowed, dogs tugged at leashes, and street performers paused mid-strum. People were staring at something unusual, someone unusual. She was sitting on a worn wooden bench, wrapped in a coat that shimmered faintly in the morning sunlight. Her hair fell in waves over her shoulders, and her eyes scanned the park with a mixture of wonder and confusion. Nothing about her seemed familiar. No one recognized her, not the tourists, not the locals, and certainly not the police who arrived minutes later after frantic calls from bystanders. Who, who are you? A young man asked, his voice hesitant, almost afraid. The woman tilted her head and looked at him. I don't know, she said softly. Her voice was calm, yet carried a strange clarity. I can't remember anything, not even my name. For the next several minutes, she answered questions with honesty, but every answer led to more confusion. She had no ID, no phone, no belongings except the strange coat she wore and a small pendant around her neck with symbols no one had ever seen. Authorities checked databases and reports. Nothing matched. The media began arriving, cameras clicking and microphones thrust forward. Headlines would later read, "Mysterious woman appears in Central Park with no memory." As the morning passed, scientists and doctors began examining her, but it wasn't just her lack of memory that made them curious. She displayed abilities that defied explanation. A simple demonstration of her balance had her walking across a park fountain's edge without faltering. She solved a complex puzzle designed for gifted students in less than a minute, something that left even mathematicians wide-eyed. When a passerby dropped a stack of papers, she caught them mid-fall with perfect timing, as though she could anticipate the motion before it happened. People around her began whispering. Some were frightened, others were in awe. She didn't speak much about herself, but she asked questions about the world with an intensity that was almost childlike. She wanted to understand everything: the behavior of birds in the trees, the color of the autumn leaves, why people rushed past each other in a hurry, why the city never seemed to sleep. It was Dr. Amelia Chen, a neuroscientist from Columbia University, who suggested the first real test. "We need to see if this is a brain issue or something else entirely," she said. She approached the woman gently. "Do you feel any pain anywhere? Any strange sensations?" The woman shook her head. "No pain, but everything feels new. Everything is strange." She paused, her eyes narrowing slightly. "It's like I've never seen this world before." That simple comment sparked something in the scientists. They started to realize that her memory loss wasn't just about forgetting. She was learning at an incredible rate. Within hours, she had begun to recognize people, understand the layout of the park, and even anticipate patterns in human behavior. She remembered names after being told once, identified trees and flowers, and quickly learned the basics of the city's transport system. But the most astonishing discovery came when she began interacting with technology. A tablet was handed to her for a simple memory test, and she typed answers faster than anyone else in the room could read them. Then she began solving coding puzzles that were meant for advanced programmers. The scientists exchanged nervous glances. "How is this possible?" one muttered. As the days passed, the city adjusted to her presence. She stayed in a small apartment provided by a social services program, but she spent most of her time in Central Park. People would bring her books, puzzles, and electronic devices, all of which she absorbed with a speed that seemed impossible. Newspapers wrote articles about her. Social media exploded. "The Park Girl," some called her. "The Miracle Woman," others said. Despite her rapid learning, she remained humble and gentle. She asked questions about human history, philosophy, and art. She laughed at jokes, sometimes a little too late, and sometimes with perfect timing that made others think she understood subtleties better than most people. Children were particularly drawn to her. She seemed to sense their emotions instantly, and could turn a dull afternoon into an adventure with simple games and stories. One evening, 6 weeks after her arrival, she asked Dr. Chen to take her to the city library. They walked together, her steps light and careful. "I want to understand humans," she said quietly. "Not just your facts, but how you feel, how you think, how you hope." Dr. Chen smiled. "That's a lot to learn in a short time." "I will try," the woman said. Her eyes shone with determination. "I want to be more than lost. I want to belong." Inside the library, she picked up books about human history, psychology, and science. She read quietly at first, but soon she began to make notes, sketches, and diagrams. It was clear to anyone watching that her mind was working differently, connecting ideas in ways even the brightest scholars would struggle to do. One night, as she sat in the library after hours, she had a sudden vision. It was brief, a flash of light, strange shapes in the sky, and a feeling of urgency that left her breathless. She could not explain it, but it lingered in her mind. When Dr. Chen asked if she was all right, she shook her head. "I think something is coming. I don't know what, but I feel it." Despite the mystery, life in New York continued. People grew fond of her. She helped a street musician compose a new song, guided lost tourists through the city, and even solved disputes between neighbors with calm reasoning. Her presence seemed to lift the spirits of everyone around her. The authorities, while cautious, began to rely on her insight. Minor crimes in Central Park decreased, not because of fear or punishment, but because of her ability to mediate and anticipate trouble before it escalated. "She sees things differently," one officer said. "It's like she can understand what people want before they do." By the end of 3 months, she had learned to navigate the city with ease. She could take the subway, buy groceries, and even negotiate complex tasks for charities and community projects. But her abilities were not just intellectual or physical, they were emotional. People who spent time with her reported feeling calmer, more confident, and more willing to help others. It was during a cold December morning that the first real clue about her origin appeared. While observing the sunrise from the top of a park hill, she suddenly froze. Her eyes widened and she whispered words in a language no one around her could understand. The sound was musical and precise, carrying a weight that made the air feel heavier. Dr. Chen, who had been walking beside her, asked, "What is it?" I don't know," she said. "It's something somewhere else, but it's familiar, and it's calling." For the first time, fear crossed her features. She had learned so much about humans, yet this unknown force reminded her of how little she knew about herself. The weeks following that moment were tense. She began drawing maps of stars she had never seen, creating equations that hinted at unknown physics, and speaking of energy she could not explain. People around her were amazed, but also wary. Could she really understand something humans had never encountered, or was she imagining it? Then came the day that changed everything. She walked into Dr. Chen's lab carrying a small, metallic device that no one could identify. "I found this," she said. "I don't know where it came from, but I think it is a warning." The scientists examined it and discovered patterns and signals that suggested intelligence far beyond Earth. The device emitted energy waves that, when translated, formed a series of coordinates and instructions. They had no idea what it meant, but the woman studied it with an intensity that left even the most brilliant minds speechless. It became clear that her arrival in Central Park was not random. She had a purpose, though neither she nor anyone else fully understood it yet. And in those moments, as snow fell softly over the city, she realized that learning about humans was only the beginning. Something larger, something dangerous was approaching. But for now, she stayed in the park, helping, observing, and growing. People still called her the park girl, but those who spent time with her knew she was more than that. She was a mystery, a guide, and a mirror for humanity's best qualities. She had come without memory, but she was learning quickly, and she was beginning to understand something essential. Humans were extraordinary, and she would need every ounce of their ingenuity to face what was coming. Even as the city carried on around her, she looked up at the sky and whispered almost to herself, "I don't know who I am, yet, but I will find out, and we will be ready." 6 months had passed since the woman had first appeared in Central Park. The city had grown used to her presence. People no longer whispered as they passed her on the streets. Children waved happily, and adults had begun to seek her advice for problems both small and complex. Yet beneath the calm surface, something extraordinary was about to change everything. One evening, as the sky darkened with the colors of sunset, she sat atop a hill overlooking the city, a device in her hands that pulsed softly with light. Her eyes were fixed on the horizon, and her mind seemed elsewhere, somewhere far beyond the familiar streets of New York. She had been studying the device for weeks, tracing its patterns, decoding signals, and following instructions that seemed to lead to something larger. "Doctor." Chen approached quietly, carrying a notebook filled with her own observations. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I think so," the woman replied, her voice calm but tense. "I see something approaching. I cannot explain it fully, but it is not of this world. It is powerful, and it is coming toward Earth." Dr. Chen's brow furrowed. "How do you know it's coming? How soon?" The woman paused. "Soon, days, maybe weeks. The signals are growing stronger. We do not have time to wait and see." News broke that night. Astronomers across the globe detected an unusual fleet of objects moving through the far reaches of space, approaching Earth at incredible speed. These were not meteors or natural phenomena. Their formation was precise, their trajectory deliberate. Governments issued statements, and panic began to spread. Yet the woman remained calm. She gathered Dr. Chen, military advisors, scientists, and engineers in a secure facility beneath the city. Maps of the stars, projections of energy readings, and schematics of the alien fleet covered every wall. She studied them intently, her eyes moving across lines and symbols as if she could see beyond the paper, beyond the projections, into the reality of the approaching danger. "We have one chance," she said finally, "one chance to prepare, and it will rely on your ingenuity, on your ability to adapt, to think, to create solutions that cannot be predicted." The humans in the room exchanged uneasy glances. The task seemed impossible. The fleet was unlike anything Earth had ever faced, and yet the woman spoke as if she already knew the path forward. Over the next days, she guided them in reverse engineering the strange metallic device she had discovered. Its energy, when properly harnessed, could strengthen human technology and create defenses beyond current understanding. Engineers marveled at her intuitive grasp of alien physics, while soldiers trained in tactics they had never imagined. Despite the fear that gripped many, her presence inspired hope. She worked tirelessly, often through the night, translating signals, designing structures, and showing humans ways to use their own resources in new and inventive ways. One afternoon, she gathered the group in the main command room. "We do not fight them as they fight us," she explained. "We use what makes us human: creativity, adaptation, unity. If we can combine our strengths with the knowledge we gain from this technology, we have a chance." It was a moment that changed everything. Scientists and engineers began thinking beyond their usual boundaries, combining theories and ideas that had once seemed impossible. Designers, programmers, and strategists worked together in ways that no single organization had ever managed. Under her guidance, humanity began to act as a single organism, each part contributing to a whole that was far greater than the sum of its parts. Meanwhile, she trained teams in understanding patterns, predicting alien movements, and optimizing resources. She didn't just instruct, they learned from her method of thinking, the way she anticipated outcomes, and how she adapted instantly when plans failed. It was extraordinary. People began to realize that their own creativity, enhanced by her guidance, could become a powerful weapon. 6 weeks before the fleet was expected to arrive, the woman made a startling revelation. "The fleet is not just a threat," she said, standing before the assembled leaders. "It is a test. It will assess our abilities, our intelligence, and our unity, and if we fail, Earth may not survive." A hush fell over the room. Leaders who had spent their careers in control were suddenly powerless. Scientists who had always studied within boundaries faced the unknown, and yet she continued with calm determination. "Their technology is advanced, yes," she said, "but they do not understand humans. They do not understand what we are capable of when we work together, when we innovate, when we refuse to give in to fear." Her words sparked a fire. The teams began working at a pace that seemed impossible. New strategies, defensive systems, and energy shields were developed. They tested simulations, adjusting plans each time, learning from every failure. And through it all, she remained a guide, a mentor, and a constant source of calm focus. As the day of the fleet's arrival drew near, tension in the city reached its peak. Schools closed, emergency services prepared, and civilians watched the skies with fear and wonder. But in the underground command center, the woman and the teams worked tirelessly. Then, one evening, as the first of the fleet appeared on Earth's radar, a problem arose. A key component of the defensive system malfunctioned, threatening to render weeks of preparation useless. Panic flared among the engineers, their faces pale in the glow of the screens. The woman stepped forward. She studied the problem silently for a moment, her eyes scanning the schematics. Then, without hesitation, she began explaining a new approach, a method that combined human intuition with alien-derived energy manipulation. It was risky, untested, and relied heavily on improvisation. "You have to trust yourselves," she said. "Not just me. Trust your own creativity. Use what you know. Adapt. Innovate. That is what will save us." And then she stepped aside, letting them work. Engineers, scientists, and strategists moved with precision, communicating ideas, testing theories, and implementing changes in real time. The room buzzed with energy and tension, every decision critical, every calculation crucial. Hours passed. The fleet approached closer and closer, a silent, moving shadow across the stars. And yet, against all odds, humanity adapted. Improvised solutions worked, energy systems stabilized, and defenses activated in ways no one could have predicted. At dawn, the first wave of the fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. It was a spectacle of light and shadow, ships enormous and alien, yet Earth was ready. Guided by the woman's insights, humans responded with a combination of courage, creativity, and determination. The battle that followed was not one of mere firepower. It was a test of intellect, adaptation, and collaboration. Humans anticipated alien movements, used their environment cleverly, and turned the unexpected into advantage. Every failure became a lesson, every setback a new strategy. She moved among the teams, observing, advising, and occasionally demonstrating a solution that no one had thought of. But the real turning point came when humans, inspired by her guidance, began to think independently. A young programmer devised a way to redirect energy flows that neutralized a section of the alien fleet. A team of engineers constructed improvised shields that absorbed and reflected energy attacks. Soldiers coordinated maneuvers that combined logic and instinct, outsmarting opponents that were stronger and faster. It was human ingenuity, fully unleashed, that began to turn the tide. The fleet, for all its power, could not anticipate the creativity, adaptability, and unity of Earth's people. Ships faltered, formations broke, and the invaders retreated, partially destroyed but alive, a testament to the resilience and brilliance of the human mind. As the last of the alien vessels vanished into space, the woman stood on a hill overlooking the city. The sky was quiet, the air filled with the faint scent of smoke and hope. She smiled softly, a rare expression of relief and pride. Humans had faced the impossible and had prevailed, not through alien power, not through technology alone, but through their own minds and hearts. Dr. Chen approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You guided us," she said, "but it was us who did it. We saved ourselves." The woman nodded. "Yes, and that is why you are extraordinary, never forget it. Your creativity, your courage, your unity, that is what made the difference. That is what will always make the difference." News spread quickly. Humanity had survived the first real encounter with an advanced alien force. People celebrated, not just for victory, but for the proof that humans were capable of facing the unknown and winning. Leaders, scientists, and civilians alike marveled at the ingenuity and resilience that had carried them through the impossible. Even as the celebrations continued, the woman remained quiet, her thoughts elsewhere. The device she had discovered still pulsed softly in her pocket, a reminder that there were mysteries yet to uncover, dangers yet to face, and knowledge yet to gain. She had arrived in Central Park with no memory, but she had guided humanity to triumph. And even now, fragments of her past whispered that this was only the beginning. In the weeks that followed, humanity began to rebuild, learn, and prepare. The fleets of the universe might not have been defeated permanently, but one truth was clear. Humans, when united and guided by curiosity and courage, were more powerful than anyone, human or alien, had imagined. And the woman, standing in Central Park as snow fell quietly around her, understood something profound. She had come without memory, without history, and yet she had found a place among humans. They were more than survivors. They were innovators, creators, and protectors of their world. She had guided them, yes, but it was humanity itself that had saved Earth. And that, she knew, was a truth worth remembering. For now the skies were clear, the city alive with hope, and the woman gazed forward with quiet determination. The threat had been met, but the universe was vast, full of wonders and dangers yet unseen. And when they came again, she knew, humans would be ready, not because of her alone, but because of what they were capable of when they believed in themselves. The city was quiet as dawn broke over New York. Streets that had been filled with panic and fear, just weeks before now thrummed with cautious hope. Humanity had survived the first wave of the alien fleet, thanks to the ingenuity, courage, and determination of people working together, and the guidance of the mysterious woman who had appeared in Central Park. Yet even in victory, there was no time to rest. The woman stood on a hill overlooking the skyline, the wind tugging gently at her coat. She had been awake all night, studying the skies, analyzing data, and preparing for the possibility that the fleet would return. Her mind moved quickly, making calculations and predictions that no one else could comprehend fully. She had already seen in her visions that this confrontation was far from over. Dr. Chen approached quietly, holding a steaming cup of coffee. "You should rest," she said softly. "You've done enough for one lifetime." The woman shook her head, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Rest will come later," she replied. "We are not finished. This was only a test. They will return stronger, smarter, and more organized. We must prepare." The scientists and engineers had been working tirelessly, but the woman knew that preparation alone was not enough. Humans had to adapt in real time, think creatively, and remain united. That was the key to survival and victory. She began assembling a new strategy, one that relied on both human creativity and the alien technology they had managed to reverse engineer. The world's leaders convened in a secure command center. Military generals, scientists, and engineers filled the room, their faces tense but determined. She stepped forward, standing at the center of the room as everyone turned to her for guidance. "The fleet will come in 3 days," she said. "Their first attack was only a probe. They are learning, adjusting. We must do the same. We cannot fight them as they fight us. We must use our intelligence, our adaptability, and our creativity. That is our greatest weapon." A general frowned. We can't predict their movements. They have advanced technology far beyond ours. How can we hope to stop them? She met his gaze steadily. By thinking differently, by trusting yourselves, by using what makes you human. And so the preparations began. Engineers modified existing energy systems to integrate with the alien device she had discovered. Programmers developed algorithms that could anticipate fleet movements by analyzing patterns from the first encounter. Soldiers trained not only in combat but in improvisation, learning to think quickly and adapt when situations changed unexpectedly. The woman worked tirelessly, moving from team to team, offering insights, guidance, and encouragement. She did not command, she inspired. She encouraged people to trust their instincts, to share ideas, and to innovate without fear of failure. Her presence was a catalyst, and humanity responded with a level of unity and creativity that no one had thought possible. The night before the fleet was expected to arrive, she gathered the leaders in the main command room. Maps, screens, and projections surrounded them, showing the fleet's predicted trajectory and energy patterns. She traced lines with her fingers, her eyes moving quickly over the data. "This is what we will do," she said. "We will not engage them head-on. Instead, we will create zones that control their movement using energy redirection, shields, and improvisation. We will force them into positions where their strength becomes a weakness. Every decision must be fast, every reaction precise. But above all, we must adapt. If a plan fails, we must change it immediately." One of the engineers spoke up. "It's risky if we miscalculate." She nodded. "I know, but risk is part of what it means to be human. We survive because we adapt, because we learn from failure, and because we refuse to give up." At dawn, the first ships of the alien fleet appeared in Earth's atmosphere. Massive, dark, and almost impossible to comprehend, they moved with precision and purpose. Radar systems tracked them, and every screen in the command center displayed their movements. Yet humanity was ready. The woman moved among the teams, observing, advising, and occasionally demonstrating solutions. But this time, she allowed humans to take the lead. It was their ingenuity, not hers, that would determine the outcome. A young programmer devised a system to redirect energy pulses, neutralizing incoming attacks. Engineers constructed improvised shields that absorbed and reflected alien energy. Soldiers coordinated maneuvers that combined logic and instinct, outsmarting opponents who were faster and stronger. As the battle unfolded, it became clear that this was not just a fight for survival. It was a test of creativity and collaboration. Every human decision mattered. Every innovative idea had the potential to turn the tide. The woman watched as humans acted independently, using the knowledge she had shared but applying it in ways that surprised even her. Hours passed. The fleet advanced, then faltered. Ships were disabled not by brute force, but by clever strategy, improvisation, and rapid adaptation. Humanity's defenses, enhanced by alien technology but driven by human creativity, proved resilient and flexible. At one critical moment, a section of the fleet attempted to outflank Earth's defenses. The command center erupted in tension. Screens flashed red as alarms blared. Engineers scrambled, soldiers readied for action. And then a young scientist suggested a solution, a risky maneuver that combined energy redirection with rapid movement patterns. The woman looked at him and nodded. "Do it. Trust yourselves." With precision and courage, the team implemented the plan. Energy waves shifted, shields activated, and the alien ships were forced into a position where they could be neutralized. One by one, the vessels faltered, their movements disrupted by human ingenuity. By midday, the fleet began to retreat. Massive ships lifted away from the planet, partially damaged, their formations broken. Humanity had won, not through superior firepower but through intelligence, creativity, and unity. The city erupted in celebration. People poured into the streets, cheering, hugging, and crying with relief. News outlets broadcast images of human ingenuity at work, showing the defensive systems, energy shields, and improvised strategies that had saved Earth. Leaders, scientists, and citizens alike marveled at what they had accomplished. The woman stood on a hill overlooking the city, her eyes scanning the skyline. She had guided humanity, yes, but it was their own courage, creativity, and determination that had saved the planet. She smiled softly, a rare expression of relief and pride. Dr. Chen approached, her face glowing with emotion. "You helped us," she said, "but it was us who did it. We saved ourselves." The woman nodded. "Yes, and that is what makes humans extraordinary. You do not need to be perfect or all-knowing. You only need to believe in yourselves, to adapt and to create. That is how you survive. That is how you triumph." As the days passed, humanity began to rebuild and learn from the encounter. Engineers improved the defensive systems, scientists studied the alien technology, and leaders worked to ensure unity and collaboration across nations. The fleet had been defeated, but the universe was vast, full of mysteries yet to be discovered. Humans had proven their worth, and the woman knew that their potential was limitless. The device that had first arrived with her continued to pulse softly, a reminder that knowledge and discovery were ongoing. She studied it daily, tracing patterns, understanding signals, and preparing for what might come next. Her memory, still incomplete, offered fragments of a life beyond Earth. She was part human, part alien, a bridge between species, and her presence had revealed the extraordinary capabilities of humanity. One quiet evening, she returned to Central Park. Snow fell softly, covering the benches and paths in a thin white blanket. Children played, adults walked their dogs, and the city moved forward with cautious optimism. She stood silently, watching, reflecting on all that had happened. She had arrived as a mystery, without memory or identity. Yet she had helped humanity face an unimaginable threat and discover its true potential. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax. The fear and tension that had accompanied her arrival were gone, replaced by a sense of purpose and belonging. Humans had proven themselves capable of greatness, and she had witnessed it firsthand. A young boy ran up to her, offering a small paper airplane. She caught it with a gentle smile and folded it carefully, handing it back. "Thank you," she said. "You remind me that even small actions can matter." He grinned and ran off, and she watched him disappear into the distance. It was moments like these, simple and human, that reminded her why she had stayed, why she had guided humanity, and why she had chosen to be part of their world. As night fell over the city, lights twinkling like stars, she stood alone in the park. The sky was clear, the air crisp, and the world around her alive with possibility. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I don't know all of who I am yet, but I know what I am meant to do. I am here to witness humans at their best, and to remind them of what they can achieve." The future was uncertain. Other threats, other mysteries, and other challenges would come. But she knew this: humanity, when united, creative, and courageous, could face anything. And she would be there, quietly watching, guiding when needed, but always letting humans prove the truth of their extraordinary nature. For now, Earth was safe. And as the woman walked through Central Park, snow crunching softly beneath her feet, she felt a deep, unwavering hope. Humanity had faced the impossible, and they had triumphed. She had arrived a mystery, but she had found a purpose. And in doing so, she had discovered something remarkable: humanity itself. And somewhere in the vastness of space, distant observers might have watched, aware that Earth was no longer a simple, ordinary planet. Humans had proven themselves clever, resilient, and united. They had survived against impossible odds, guided by a stranger, and yet defined by their own brilliance. The woman paused, looking up at the stars. Her memory might not be complete, her origin still mysterious, but she understood this clearly. Humans were extraordinary, and she would spend her life helping them see it for themselves. The universe might be vast and full of challenges, but she knew humanity would endure, adapt, and rise, because they were, in every sense, remarkable. And with that, she continued walking through the park, a quiet guardian, a witness, and a reminder of the power of courage, creativity, and unity, the very traits that made humans the strongest force she had ever known.